Hello. Thanks so much for dropping in. I had some recording troubles yesterday. Oh, but life is full of lessons. And this little wee microphone I have on my hat, it does a pretty good job. But I've never known how long it lasts in terms of how long it lasts because I've never really had it run low on me, but yesterday it did, and I guess it starts to flash red. Anyway, I have it here so I can see the green light, but I really wasn't paying attention, and some stories and things were lost, excuse me, because I broke a nail. And I have here my bag of nail clippers. Some people would say, why do you need so many? Well, I don't think that's so many. There are little scissors, there's a file, there's clippers, all sorts. Anyway, I don't think that's so many. I think that's a good assortment. Where some people say, why don't you throw them out? Yeah. Why would I throw out something that's good? Anyway, yesterday I know some stories were lost. So I thought I would bring up something and tell some more copper stories for a moment. Nothing like water. Anyway, I do have many more things and cables and stuff to go through. And I know I did make a comment that certainly the hat on this model, on the April 1977 edition of a popular men's magazine, I did see on the set of copper from time to time because, of course, it was set in 1863 and 1864 during, the years of the Revolution in the United States. Or, sorry, not Civil, Civil War. Civil War. Revolution before that. Anyway, and I'm sure there's other things that I mentioned in here. I know there was some car ads. There's a beautiful ad. Look at that. Practical and practically perfect. The rabbit. And the Volkswagen Bug. Volkswagen was always quite something when it came to advertising. It was. I'm just looking to see if I can find some more ads here. Yes. Vintage ads. But, oh, here's something. Ooh. Remember when you used to play with trucks? You still can. It's from Dodge. The adult toys from Dodge. All kinds of vans and pickups. And anyway, there are many, many reasons to look back at old publications of all sorts. Look, introducing Le Car. I never had one, never was in one, but as it happens, many, many years ago, Jim Butterfield called me because his Chevette was had enough, and he didn't drive much, so he preferred just renting a car or doing whatever when he absolutely needed one. But he had this Chevette and he decided it's time. So I said, okay. So I went down, dragged it home, and see, it was a GM thing, and a lot of things are interchangeable, so some things did come off. But also, the tires were pretty fine. The wheels would not fit of the car, but the tires would. So the fellow who was helping me in this operation said his buddy had a car and he would very much appreciate the tires. And I said, cool. So what we did is we got everything off that we could. We found a junkyard that was actually back downtown in Toronto, and late on a Sunday night, we dragged it there, and of course they were closed, and the gate was closed, and we left a note inside the car along with the ownership, etc., which was necessary, and we took off the wheels and ran away with the wheels and tires and left it sitting on the ground. But we weren't worried because I know places like that have forklifts and all kinds of things to come and hoist things away. And I did leave my phone number in case they needed to be in touch. They never were, so it was all good. Anyway, I'm confident the sound will work today. So I have been digging through things, but what I really thought, because I know there were copper stories I missed that I would bring up, this is one of the things that I got in the set sale from Copper. And some would say, what's that? Well, you know there's that old saying, do not fold, bend, mutilate, or spindle? Well, I think this is what's called spindling, sort of. And I think the idea was when you were in a store and you bought something, you did whatever, and you had a receipt or something. Spindling was they'd have a thing on the counter or somewhere to keep track of where they would take the thing, and it was basically like a stick or a metal, like a nail sticking up, and they would just stick the thing on. Oh yeah, that's done. Boom, that's done. Boom, that's done. And I guess the idea behind this is like a whole bunch of stuff over the years, and there is great detail in all these. I haven't taken them apart, but it says, I levy the corner licensed pawn. Oh, it's from a pawnbroker. Corner, King and Clarence Street. Well, this is London, Ontario. Anyway, these things were not going to be read up close. And yes, that's the same thing on the other end. I have not looked to see what else is in here. I'm always afraid. Yeah, I guess there are. But anyway, the idea for a show like Copper would be that, some artist, really an artist, created all this, that in the scene, in a store, this would be hanging up somewhere. And there are, I would say, just, I don't know, maybe a couple thousand little scraps of paper, and all on here, and, like supposedly receipts and things and stuff, and they would have been intentionally made to look old and mangled and all, and really, I mean, it's amazing the detail that these shows go to make something look authentic. And really, I mean, it's really the only time that people notice what they've done, if it's not authentic, is if it's not authentic. Otherwise, this could be hanging in a store in the back of something that you barely even be able to see, but there it is. It's authentic. It is. Anyway, I'm going to put this in its own box, and because it's kind of brittle, and I can't imagine how many hours went into making this to sit. Now, chances are, if they spent this much time on it, it was in a place that they would have been using more than once, I would think. But I don't know. See, when I got all the boxes of all the stuff, it didn't really say. There was sometimes it said stuff about what it was, but I don't know where this was. It does look like it might have been more likely in like a butcher shop or something, just hanging up there. Now, I haven't watched through the show to try and find it, but I know that it would have been something that they spent a tremendous amount of time getting just right, just so, and there it is. I have a lot of other paperwork. I'll get into that. Anyway, back to some Copper stories. When I was on there, when I first, actually, when I wasn't on the show, because I went for the fitting, and they found stuff and whatever. But when it came to shoes, it really wasn't happening because I have wide feet, and I said, look, if you're really never going to find shoes that fit me, then let's just forget the whole thing. I'll just go away. But of course, the costuming people kind of huddle around and I hear them muttering about how I'm their first pick for 5 Points, which is the area in New York City where this was all taking place. So they said they had to try harder. Anyway, they did find something to fit. And then, of course, when I got there on the first day, they weren't there. There were other things there. And I had a bit of an ingrown toenail on that first day that I was there. And this shoe, like my regular shoes didn't bug it, but this shoe, oh. So I remember they were asking if people wanted to stay late, and of course, for a little bit of a scene. And I said, yeah, that's fine. Because you see, once you're there and you go over a certain amount of time, you're into, this is if you're an actor, you go into overtime and other things. Anyway, it had been a pretty long day. And I figured, well, sure, they're asking actor people. So I said, sure. Anyway, so I had to walk down this road. I think I was with somebody. Maybe I wasn't. Anyway, but they did say, they're kind of like, well, what do you want? I said, you know what? Why don't I just walk like I can barely walk because my foot is in agony because of these shoes? And the guy said, yeah, that's great. I said, good, because that's what's really going on here. So, needless to say, I got the toe dealt with after that day. And I did continue to wear those shoes without issue, but one of the things that I did is I realized that if little by little by little I yanked on the shoes, I could kind of rip the threads that were holding them together, and they would fit better. So I did that, and probably, for about half the time that I was summoned back here and there, nobody noticed that how the shoes had been sort of, they still went on my feet fine. And you know what, with the way my pants were, you could never see them. But anyway, eventually, I guess someone said, oh, look, these shoes are falling apart, oh my God. And they gave me these other ones. And of course, I started the process all over again. I did. Anyway, this is quite the relic. And, people think, oh, art, yeah, draw, whatever. Art is so many things. And really, on a show like this, they hire set deck people. And there's somebody who designs, but then there's people who actually have to make the things. And this would have probably taken somebody, I don't know. I mean, if they're experienced at this and they're good at it, but there's bunches of these. Like I would a week, 2 weeks, who knows? But they're stickler for detail, and they want stuff. Somebody says we got to have that hanging there. Yep, got to have that. So it is made. It is done. It is. So, excuse me. The other thing I have here, and I've had these for a while, and they're nothing to do with Commodore, but they are. It's a pin. And I'm sure you can't see that, and I'll try and do another quick video with a close-up, but it says Club Commodore. And from what I've been able to find online, I have 3 of them, by the way. But of course, it just happens to be, it says Commodore, so ha ha ha. Anyway, best I can figure out, it was something with the Cunard cruise lines, I think. But as I'm getting ready to assemble another different hat full of pins and buttons and things and stuff, I am going to put this, or these, with the stuff that is going to be considered for the new hat. I will. Now, this I need to be careful with. I'm going to very carefully, because actually every time I move it, little bits of stuff come off. I'm going to set it very gently in the box of things to be tested before I put it in its own box. Now, other thing I found as I'm cleaning up, and this is just one chair, I found a box of discs. And they look pretty well worn, pretty well used, and probably some water damaged. And I have never explored them. Ooh, yeah. Like, look at this. Look. I think that's been in, oh, look at the back. I think that's been in a flood. Now, it's dry now, but this is the kind of, ooh, like I can see slime on the actual disc surface. Now, will the disc even turn? Another excellent question. Oh, maybe, sort of, kind of, a little bit. Anyway, I am not set up to really. Disc is stuck. Yeah, I bet they're stuck. Anyway, I will have to see. This is also a time that if I do test these out, probably it'll be one of those things. Can load a. This says I can load the directory, but I cannot get into the program. Well, not surprising. They've been slimed. Mildew cannot get these to work. Ooh, great. These may. Oh, golly. Yeah, these have had a rough go. They have. Anyway, this may be a time. Who knows? It may be when the risk reward is not like I think they've been in a flood. Now, they're certainly dry now. Anyway, I will see if certainly if there's something interesting that looked worthy of being rescued, I would give it a go. And there is actually a thing you can do where you take the actual disc out, especially if it's mildew and other sort of stuff. You take the actual disc out and wash it, and then put it back in another sleeve. Okay. Oh. Alright, this is a much nicer one. This says it's a Microsoft disk for WordPerfect. But I don't know. Printer 2. I don't know. See, WordPerfect was available on the Amiga, but of course the Amiga really didn't have. So I'm assuming this is an IBM sort of disk. I would assume. Anyway, farther back down here they look like they're named very much like TPUG disk, but this is not my writing. I don't know. Oh, yeah, here. Ooh. It's a TPUG disk. CTQ. TPUG disk, January 1986. Oh, let me think. I don't know if I did this one. I don't know. I don't know. Probably not. Maybe. Probably not. Anyway, these are worth checking out, to be sure. But I don't have a 64 and a drive set up right here. But they look like they've been very well cared for. And I'd have to look up and remember what they all were. Let's see. And just flipping through. If there's anything else that jumps out. Well, one thing that this person did, which is rather smart, is there was a program that you could get that it would print out a disk label. Not a disk label, like a directory on a sleeve that then, from what I remember, you would kind of fold it together and tape it. And then you know it was on the disk. So this is CTI, September 1983. Yeah, I might have put this disk together. I am not sure. Anyway, so basically it looks like all Commodore thing. Mind you, who knows? Just because this says it's what it is, it doesn't mean it says it is what it is. Who knows? So this box is probably a disaster. This one is probably not. And then, of course, we come to this one. And what do we have in here? Well, this one says Monopoly. Neutral zone by access. Joystick required. Mini golf. To load program, load quote. Asterisk quote, comma 8, comma 1. I've heard that before. Languages 3. What is this? Oh. I have here also a very modern device. It's a timer, which has two different timers on it. One from 0 to 20 and one from 0 to 50, 0 to an hour. Handy for the kitchen. But I keep it here because sometimes it is good to know how long I've been going on. Let's see. Oh, here's something. GEOS. I never liked it. Never liked it. To me, it took the Commodore 64 and turned it into this strange beast that I then knew nothing of. Anyway, certainly some of these are worth exploring, but I cannot do it at this moment. So I will, chances are, put all of these in a box, in these containers marked discs to examine. I believe I shall. Anyway, let me just check. I believe my nails have been trimmed. I'm going to put these Club Commodore pins away carefully so that I can add them to my next hat, pin, etc. creation. And let's see if there's anything else in, say, this episode. Oh, this is the one. I'm sure I talked about this. I do want to read this. It's John F. Kennedy, off the record, Conversations by Bren Bradley, Bradlee. He was the editor of the Washington Post during the Watergate situation. But anyway, he did do, and maybe I read this, and maybe it's on another thing. Hang on. Just like, where is that article? That is not, well, that's a fine article, but that's not what I'm looking for. I know I was skimming through before, and I found it. Oh yeah, I've been through this, because look, it's a 2-page spread for the AMC Pacer. The first wide, small car. And it was. But anyway, there was, and I did read a little bit. Oh yeah, and they also interviewed Dustin Hoffman back in 1975. But, all right, where I know I saw before the beginnings. Oh, this article. I know it. Because I was flipping. Conversations with Kennedy. Yes, in case, and I think this all got lost. I think I had some glasses. No, that's not them. They would assist. Anyway, it does sound fascinating, this whole thing. Just a moment. Conversations with Kennedy. There was once a U.S. president who loved the life he was leading and led it exceedingly well. Benjamin Bradley is executive editor of the Washington Post and was a political reporter and Washington bureau chief for Newsweek during the early 60s. It was as a personal friend first, and later as a journalist, that Bradley came to know John F. Kennedy between 1959 and 1963. Bradley and his wife, Toni, spent many evenings at the White House socializing and swapping gossip with the Kennedys. Eventually, Bradley began to make notes of his talks with the president, but it was understood that he would not make them public until at least 5 years after Kennedy had left the White House. The following excerpts from the conversations are therefore glimpses not of a president in his official role, but in Bradley's words, of a president off duty, a president trying to relax, a president hungry for personal contact, otherwise denied him by the burdens and isolation of his lonely office. So yes, I need to, at some point, read through this. Fascinating. Anyway, some people, of course, are critical of such magazines as this, but they did in fact have a lot of unique stories, satire, cartoons, and lots of other articles and such. Anyway, well, that, I think, is enough for now.
That was easy.
So thanks for joining me in the world of Commodore. I will carry on finding things and bringing them up here so that they can be carefully stored away in boxes so I can rediscover them at another time. Although some things I will tinker with more. Like some of these discs I want to go through sooner than later. So I'll just make sure those boxes are near the top or near the surface, because I am in the box room. And there's a lot of boxes here. Thanks so much for coming. Bye for now.